Left hand on the guitar. We've only got two hands, and this is half of our total hands. And so when we're practicing the guitar, we really need to use that thing well. And so what you'll find in this video are 7 mistakes that you may be or may not be making with your left hand when you're playing the guitar. Now we're going to be talking specifically about classical guitar, but these generalize to electric guitar and to acoustic guitar or to ukulele or to anything else that you're playing. I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and please enjoy these 7 deadly mistakes for the left hand playing guitar. Mistake number 1 on the guitar is extreme wrist angles. This is really dangerous. This is where repetitive stress injury comes from, and so we have a few ways that our wrists move, right? Sticking it out very far, pulling it in very far, kicking it to the side very far. Either way, any of those is going to be bad news over time. And so if you're playing classical guitar, your neck is probably up, maybe not as much as mine, but we like to, in playing classical guitar, put the tuning key, the low E tuning key, about at eye level. But I know a lot of other styles go much lower. And so if you're doing that, you might be using this really steep wrist angle to get to things, especially to bar chords. Well, know that over time, that can really do a lot of damage to your wrists, carpal tunnel syndrome, all these things. It really plagues guitarists. So in practicing, it's nice to get the neck up. Even if when you play 4 people, you put the neck down or you put your guitar on your other leg or something, it's nice to practice with the guitar neck up so that you can avoid extreme wrist angles. Number 2 is bracing the big joint of the index finger. This is this knuckle right here. And so what a lot of folks do, and it feels secure to do this, but it actually isn't any more secure than just playing any note, is to plant that big knuckle on the side of the guitar and then move from there. And so it feels really nice to do that because the full guitar is in your hand. You know it's not going to fly off into space or fall on the floor. However, it's not going to anyway. If your thumb is on the back and your fingers are on the fretboard, it's not going to fall out of your hand. What this does is it limits your motion, it limits your movements that are available there and your stretch, and it really binds you. It's like having really thick, heavy shoes on and trying to do ballerina work. It's just not going to work. So it really weights you down. So instead, ideally, you'd let that float. You'd keep space under the shoulder of the hand there, where the fingers meet the hand. You'd keep space between that and the neck. A lot of times, that's going to be parallel to the neck and down. But then for some chords, you're going to want to kick this way. But even then, you typically don't want to spend a lot of time with that big knuckle touching the side of the guitar. Which brings us to number 3 on our list of deadly mistakes for the left hand, and that is letting the thumb extend out past the index finger. So on the back, you can just do this right now. Hold your hand like this so that your thumb and your fingers, your thumb is behind your fingers, and then stretch your fingers out to the side like this, like you're palming a grapefruit, right? You can notice this stretch between your pinky and your index finger. It gets very large, and so you can get a lot of space in between your fingers. Well, if you put your thumb off to the side and then do it, you'll notice you have a whole lot less space. So whenever you're playing, ideally you keep your thumb behind your fingers all the time when you're playing. Now, if you're playing really low and you're going to play a chord, then it's going to have to do this. But if you can get the neck up, you can keep that thumb behind your fingers and your whole hand is going to work much better. So number 4, this is a really easy one that you can start to fix in your practice by just noticing it and just becoming aware of it and remaining aware of it. And that is playing too far back from the fret. Whenever we play the guitar, we want to put your finger right behind the fret. And this is one of those things that people will tell you when you first start and you say, okay, got it, and then you never think about it again. And so then it's years down the road and you don't even think about it. You're just like, of course I know to play behind the fret. Well, a lot of people still, they play way too far behind the fret. And what that does is it makes you use too much energy because it takes more power to press the fret down back there. And also, it's more likely to buzz and click and sound bad. So a lot of inaccuracies in playing and messiness just comes from being too far back on the fret. So instead, when you're practicing, especially, this is a great thing to do right when you first start playing in your practice, when you first pick up your guitar, is to play something really simple and just notice your fingers right behind the fret. You can even feel the fret under your finger and just really get up there by it and become aware of that. And do that for just a few seconds a day, and it'll become more in your awareness, and you'll do it more whenever you're practicing and actually playing pieces. So keep your fingers right behind the frets when you're playing, and everything you play will be much cleaner. Number 5 is showing the audience your palm like this. We see a lot of this in video reviews. Our members of the Woodshed Classical Guitar programs can send in videos and we review them for them within a couple of days. And this is one of the things that we see a lot and warn against, is that when you're shooting a video or looking in a mirror as well, and it's wonderful to practice in front of a mirror, if you're seeing the palm of your hand, then your hand is out of position. So it's a really easy thing to check for. So a window, if it's dark outside, or a black computer screen, anything that's reflective, or a mirror, you can just take a look and say, am I seeing my palm? And if you are, that means that your pinky is going to be way off in space. And so if you need it, then it has to travel through all that space to get to where you're going. Also, probably you're on the side of your thumb. You're just not using your hands well. So one of the best ways that you can become more efficient in your left hand is just to make sure that you rotate that around as the doorknob motion. It's supinating, if you want the technical term. It's turning your palm upward to the sky. But get that around there so that your wrist is nice and straight, more or less, and your pinky is over the frets. And when you see that, then you see the back of my hand right here, not the palm of my hand. That's what we're going for. Number 6 is pressing too hard. And this might be related to playing too far back from the fret or anything else. But pressing too hard is just using our muscles inefficiently, which makes perfect sense, right? We don't want to press too hard. We want the appropriate amount of tension. The question is, how do you find out what is appropriate tension? How do you know that? And this takes time and practice. We don't know this until we've trained it and learned it. So if you're first starting out, you may well be pressing too hard with some fingers and not hard enough with other fingers. And learning that appropriate tension is one of the things that we do in our daily practice. There are many ways to do this. The first is to buzz notes, and this is a great exercise. You can just do this just going up 1, 2, 3, 4 on any string with your fingers. But there is a point in between playing a note where you can hear it nice and solid, ba, and playing it to where you're not pressing it enough and it's just a thump. Well, if you just steadily increase that pressure from the thump, you'll get to a place where it buzzes. And it's an extremely small little window in there where you can buzz that note. You're right behind the fret, just like we talked about, with the fingertip. Nice curve. Use your good position to where your thumb's behind your fingers. So find that buzz and then go to the next finger and find that buzz and that buzz and that buzz. And that's going to train your fingers to really know exactly how much pressure you're placing. The buzzing notes exercise is really wonderful for figuring out appropriate tension. So if you put that into your daily practice, before long, you'll be able to play with plenty of pressure, but not too much, and your muscles will thank you. And number 7, but spoiler alert, there's also a bonus, number 8, coming up as well. Number 7 is flicking the fingers out. And this also is something that we train over time. Whenever we first start playing, it could be that when we press one finger, the other fingers fly up, right? We just want to be aware of this. Don't create a lot of tension in your hand by trying to keep it down, but just notice it. So if you're playing with your index finger, like so, notice what your pinky's doing. Just put attention on it. And chances are, if you're first starting out, it will do something like this. Same thing, if you're playing with your little finger, your index finger might fly out. So this kind of thing is just inefficient movement, because if we need the note or if we need that finger fast, well, then it's way off in space again. And so we have to then come home and then do it. So instead, ideally, we can stay right behind the frets, right above the strings. And that is a really nice way to play. So in your practice, just take a look at your little finger or your ring finger while you're playing your other fingers, and just strive to keep them very low above the strings. And yes, that little finger is going to do all kind of stuff and have a life of its own, but over time it settles down. So just putting attention on it, being aware of it. Don't beat yourself up over it. It's nothing to whip yourself over. It's just something to notice and to get better at over time. And the bonus, number 8, is just having your fingernails too long. If your fingernails are too long, it's very difficult to play directly down with the tip. And so you're going to end up going to the side, and that's going to let these knuckles collapse as well, which is also not a great thing to do. And it's just going to make things a little bit messier for you. So keeping your fingernails short on your left hand is going to help. Now, if you just have long nails as part of your fashion, well, then just do the best you can. Just keep them as short as you can, and don't have your big long faux nails, but do the best you can with it. Shorter nails make it easier to play. So these have been 7 deadly mistakes. They're not really deadly. They're just fairly inefficient and get in your way if you're playing. But these are mistakes that you might be making with your left hand. If you fix any of these, you will be a better player. And if you would like to be an even better player, I welcome you over to Classical Guitar Shed. There's tons of tutorials there. And if you join our program and our community over there, then we would love to have you. And there's great things happening. We'll work with you on your playing. All right, enjoy your day and good luck in your practice.